Imagine if one locked room, one hidden vault, held enough secrets to rattle the biggest power couple in music, and maybe even tie into the fall of another empire. Now imagine the only person who really knew what was inside that vault died before he could speak, and the files people thought were destroyed have started to creep back into the light. That's the rumor circling the industry right now. This isn't just about unreleased songs or behind the scenes drama. This is about Prince, Jay-Z, Beyoncé, and the shadow of Diddy, and about files that were never supposed to survive. Before the world lost the purple legend in April 2016, people close to him say Prince was quietly digging into information that could have blown Jay-Z and Beyoncé's picture-perfect image wide open. Think about that. The man who fought harder than almost anyone for creative control allegedly sifting through receipts on one of the most polished brands in modern music. And now, insiders claim the very material everyone assumed was destroyed is starting to leak again. According to people in the know, the Carters believed they buried everything: wiped drives, hidden backups, deep buried hard disks gone. At least that's what they thought. But in the last few years, whispers have started to build again. Files, clips, notes, references to names nobody wants connected in the same sentence. Behind closed doors, people say the Carters are in full-on damage control mode. Publicly, everything is calm. Privately, the word people keep using is panic. If these leaks are real, the real question might not be, was Prince investigating them? But who has that evidence now, and why is it surfacing right as Diddy's world is collapsing in courts and headlines? That timing feels less like an accident and more like a chess move. Prince's death was officially ruled accidental, but the chaos that followed blurred every line between mourning, money, and manipulation, and it all hit at the worst possible moment. Just months earlier, Prince had agreed to put exclusive music on Jay-Z's streaming service, Tidal, after being assured that his artistic rights would be protected. At first, it looked like a respectful alliance between two icons, the veteran who fought the system and the mogul who claimed to be building a new one. But once Prince was gone, that sense of trust twisted into something else entirely. When it came out that Prince left no will, his estate turned its attention to Tidal and Roc Nation. In legal filings, they accused Jay-Z's companies of forging and backdating contracts to grab control of Prince's unreleased catalog. Court papers described a frantic race by those companies to hold onto Prince's vault as if it already belonged to them. To the estate, it felt like a cold corporate grab dressed up as tribute. To Jay-Z's camp, it was just business. To the public watching from a distance, it looked a lot like grief being swallowed by greed. The battle didn't stay inside courtrooms. By 2017, Jay-Z did what he often does. He turned the conflict into lyrics. On his 444 album, one track fired off what sounded like direct shots at people advising Prince's estate, calling them sellouts and implying they were betraying Prince's wishes. Then came the line that set everything on fire. "I sat down with Prince eye to eye. He told me his wishes before he passed." That single bar detonated across headlines and social media. Instead of cooling things down, it made the feud legendary. Prince's estate pushed back hard. They claimed Tidal's supposed contract was straight up fabricated and said some documents looked suspiciously backdated. Email trails didn't match Jay-Z's version of events. Communication logs suggested a timeline that clashed with what his side was saying. To the estate, it wasn't a business disagreement anymore. It felt like betrayal. To Jay-Z's supporters, it was all a smear campaign. But under all that noise, one haunting question wouldn't go away. What exactly was inside Prince's vault that made billionaires start moving like enemies? Not long after the lawsuits started, another story surfaced. Allegedly, Jay-Z had flown Prince's sister, Tyka Nelson, to New York with a massive offer, a $40 million for complete ownership of Prince's entire catalog. $40 million. Sounds huge, right? But to people who understand the business, that number landed wrong. We're talking about decades of unreleased work from one of the most influential musicians ever. In that context, $40 million didn't look generous, it looked small, almost insulting. That's when another question started swirling through the industry. If the catalog was worth way more than that on music alone, what else did Prince have locked away? According to some insiders, Prince didn't just hoard songs. He was meticulous, obsessive about documentation. They say he kept personal notes on powerful executives, megastars, and unspoken deals that shaped entire careers, and whose names have been whispered as appearing in those notes. Jay-Z, Beyoncé, other heavyweights. None of that has been publicly confirmed, but here's what is clear. Everyone who's tried to control Prince's legacy has ended up fighting over more than the music. They're fighting over what he knew. To understand why that matters, you have to look at how Jay-Z built his own legend. This is someone whose entire public image has always carried an edge, polished now, but sharpened in the streets. He once pled guilty in a 1999 case involving the stabbing of a music producer during a dispute over a leaked album. He avoided prison and walked with probation. A couple of years later, police found a loaded gun in a car associated with his entourage outside a Manhattan club. His bodyguard stepped up and took the fall. Jay-Z himself has openly admitted that before the fame, he made his early money on Brooklyn corners. That past became part of the mythology, the hustler who turned street survival into global dominance. The grind never disappeared, it just changed form. What used to be hand-to-hand hustle turned into boardroom power plays, complex contracts, and brutal negotiations. The setting shifted, the instinct stayed. By the mid-2010s, Jay-Z was no longer just a rapper. He was an institution, a full-blown empire. Paired with Beyoncé's elevated, near-flawless image, they were carefully presented as modern royalty, visionary, powerful, untouched by scandal. That's exactly why a messy, public fight with Prince's estate was so dangerous. It didn't just threaten a business deal. It threatened to show a side of Jay-Z that the brand could not afford, a mogul accused of twisting paperwork, capitalizing on grief, and trying to pull creative property out of a dead legend's hands. Court filings later revealed that Tidal streamed more than 15 of Prince's albums after his death, including music he had never personally authorized for release. The estate said Jay-Z's team moved fast in the confusion, pushing content out at a time when nobody around Prince's legacy had their footing. To them, it looked like someone daring the world to challenge him while everything was still in shock. Then things got stranger. Emails started getting withheld under something called common interest privilege, a legal move that immediately raised eyebrows for people tracking the case. From the outside, it stopped looking like ordinary chaos and started looking like a power play gone sideways. And just as that storm was intensifying, another one was ripping across Hollywood. At the center of that second storm was Sean Diddy Combs, the same man who used to invite Jay-Z and Beyoncé to his famous all-white parties, smiling for photos like everything was one big, luxurious family reunion. But behind the scenes, lawsuits and federal investigations began painting a much darker picture. According to allegations in civil cases and law enforcement documents, those legendary parties weren't just extravagant celebrations. They were carefully managed operations, with cameras, strict control, and systems of leverage that left some people terrified of what might come out later. Former publicists and guests have claimed that Diddy recorded almost everything: private moments, whispered conversations, late-night chaos. Prosecutors and plaintiffs have described that footage as a form of power currency, the kind of material that can keep people in line without anyone ever saying a word out loud. Now put that beside the rumors about Prince. Here's a man who trusted almost no one in the industry, who fought his label so hard he wrote the word slave on his own face. Is it really a stretch to believe he might have kept his own receipts, not just on companies, but on behavior inside those glittering circles? Especially when lawsuits hint that at one point, Jay-Z and Beyoncé were regular faces in that world, until suddenly they were. As federal teams dig deeper into Diddy's orbit, the connections just keep looking more complicated. With each new filing and each new leak, the same uncomfortable question echoes through studios, offices, and group chats. Did Prince already know what everyone else is only now daring to say out loud? Jay-Z's name has appeared in some documents tied to Diddy's social scene, usually at the edges, 1 degree away, but there. In at least one civil case, both Diddy and Jay-Z were mentioned in connection with alleged misconduct at an early 2000s event. Jay-Z's camp immediately called it blackmail and denied everything, and those specific references didn't last long in amended paperwork. But the timing of all this, Diddy's empire under fire, and rumors that Prince-related files are resurfacing, feels too precise for a lot of people to write off as random. According to insiders, the Carters are keeping quiet publicly while watching the internet like hawks. Any new leak site, any anonymous account that so much as hints at Prince's vault, they're tracking it, because that vault has gone beyond myth. It's become legend. Picture it: endless shelves of tapes, handwritten notes, hard drives, and mysterious miscellaneous media labels. Some boxes reportedly marked private or not for release. That room wasn't just storage, it was a pressure cooker. During early estate audits, some items were reported missing. Nobody made a huge public noise about it at the time, but people close to the situation remember. And now those same people say that files matching those missing catalog numbers are starting to appear again, online, encrypted, shared through back channels like digital ghosts arriving right on schedule. If any of that is real, those drives might not just contain unheard music. They could hold videos, correspondence, and detailed notes connecting some of the biggest names in entertainment in ways they never expected to see daylight. That's why people say the Carters are nervous. Because if the right or wrong combination of files leaks, the fallout doesn't just hit charts or streaming numbers. It hits reputations, business alliances, and carefully engineered public identities. This isn't just about ownership anymore, it's about survival. Sources claim that Jay-Z and Beyoncé have quietly reached out to former Prince associates over the last few years, offering consulting roles or short-term projects, followed by tight non-disclosure agreements. To some, that looks like smart damage control. To others, it looks like desperation. Behind the scenes, the rumor mill is full of specific phrases. Encrypted drives, references to Diddy in internal notes, mentions of Roc Nation, and even hints of private investigators being hired from within Prince's circle. None of that has been laid out in a public courtroom, but the stories keep coming from people who insist they were close enough to see the edges. When the estate's final inventory was tallied, insiders say a few catalog numbers stood out not because of what they described, but because they didn't describe much at all. They weren't songs. They weren't standard albums. They were simply labeled miscellaneous media. Those are the files everyone seems to be chasing now. Add to that what's been alleged in the Diddy investigations. Private jets booked under different names, entire hotel floors locked down, unusual cash movements, and even, according to some of the more sensational reports, staggering amounts of personal supplies discovered during raids. Put together, it paints a picture of a world where everything is documented, cataloged, and ready to be used later if anyone steps out of line. Now imagine Prince, methodical, suspicious, and fiercely protective, quietly gathering his own material about that same world, not for gossip, for leverage, or maybe just for the day when the truth finally mattered. In that light, the idea that Prince might have serious receipts, or even incriminating footage, stops sounding like wild speculation. It starts sounding plausible. Then there's the detail that still bothers a lot of observers. In one court filing tied to a Diddy-related event, Jay-Z and Beyoncé's names reportedly appeared and then vanished in a later corrected version. Their legal team quickly asserted that Jay-Z was in New York that night, not Miami, and demanded his name be removed. To casual viewers, it looked like a simple correction. To others, it looked like one of the fastest cleanup jobs Hollywood has ever seen. People who work in media talk quietly about it. Calls from lawyers, warnings not to casually link Beyoncé or Jay-Z to anything involving the Diddy investigations, even in conversation. Segments edited down, interviews pulled, posts quietly disappearing. Earlier this year, a talk show host had to deliver a public apology after airing an interview where a guest made intense claims about the Carters' alleged ties to Diddy's world. Within days, the episode was pulled, the footage was recut, and a formal statement was issued walking everything back. That kind of instant reversal doesn't happen for just anyone. It happens when powerful people make one phone call and the room changes temperature. All of that might be coincidence, or it might not. Here's what most casual fans never realized. Prince wasn't just a performer, he was an archivist. He documented almost everything. People close to him say he kept copies of emails, contracts, personal notes, and possibly even videos to track how high-level players in the industry did business and how often silence was traded for protection. Some insiders now believe what's leaking, slowly in pieces, might not be random at all. They think it could be fragments of a private investigation Prince was running in his final years. not just about his own masters, but about the bigger machine, how power was built, who was protected, who looked the other way. For years, the public thought Prince's vault was just stacks of unheard albums. But people who claim to have actually seen parts of it describe something closer to a black box for Hollywood and the music business, a record of how deals were made when no one thought history was paying attention. According to those same whispers, when Prince died and his estate descended into confusion, certain files didn't just go missing. They were copied, quietly moved, stored outside Paisley Park in hands that weren't officially on any inventory list. If that's true, then the encrypted drives, unlabeled clips, and scattered notes turning up in dark corners of the internet right now could be those very copies finally circling back. None of this has been fully proven in court. A lot of it lives in that murky space between documented fact, legal allegation, and online rumor. But if even part of it is accurate, someone out there is sitting on evidence that could completely rearrange what we think we know about the most powerful people in music. And that's where the irony cuts the deepest. Prince literally wrote slave on his face to protest what record labels tried to do to him. He changed his name, walked away from deals, and sacrificed short-term comfort to keep control of his art. He fought for artistic freedom at every possible turn. Meanwhile, Jay-Z spent years presenting himself as the heir to that fight, the businessman who understood ownership, the mogul who spoke about artists controlling their work. Now, leaks and lawsuits are painting a different picture. A man obsessed not just with owning his own masters, but with owning the narrative around everyone connected to him. A mogul whose teams move fast to scrub anything that could crack the immaculate image he and Beyoncé have spent decades cementing. In that light, even Beyoncé's flawless, hyper-polished aura starts to look less like simple star power and more like part of a larger system. Perfect, calculated, and laser-protected. Perfection in their world isn't just branding, it's armor. As investigators and lawyers keep pulling on threads connected to Diddy's circle, those threads continue to brush close to Jay-Z, maybe not in direct charges, but in proximity, in history, in names that show up and then disappear. The Carters aren't listed as defendants. They aren't official targets, but their social and business overlap with that circle keeps the spotlight from fading. So now we're left with a set of questions that won't go away. If Prince really did keep evidence on the people around him, how much of it involved the Carters? Are Jay-Z and Beyoncé simply protecting themselves from reckless rumors, or shielding something much bigger? Are these supposed leaks just exaggerated internet mythology, or the early tremors of a story that hasn't fully broken yet? And the most unsettling question of all: if someone finally decides to drop everything that was copied out of Prince's vault, every note, every clip, every strange, miscellaneous media file, how many of today's untouchable empires would still be standing? You've heard the whispers, you've seen the patterns. Now it's up to you. What do you think is really sitting on those drives, and who is most afraid of us finding out?